Hi, Irma. Welcome to the stage and welcome to CenCal Dreaming 2022.
How's it going, Roxanne? It's good to be
It's
here.
going great. Um, would you please reintroduce yourself to this community as well as Bitwise Industries?
Yeah, absolutely. So, good morning, everyone. If you are on the East Coast, then just very recently, good afternoon. My name is Irma Olguin. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Bitwise Industries. I'm super excited to be here with Roxanne today. The Salesforce community in Central California has just grown leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. And this conference and being able to focus on the users from that span inside of California has been a missing piece, right, to growing that Salesforce ecosystem. So I'm excited to be here to have this conversation with you, to get us started off on the right note. I know that folks are going to enjoy everything that's been planned today, and I'm just excited to be a tiny little part of that.
Awesome. All right, we'll hop into some questions and kind of get the conversation going. As you know, Bitwise became very active in helping humans, especially in the communities that Bitwise serves. At the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, how did the company use Salesforce as a tool to actively help individuals?
Yeah, I think to answer that question, we have to rewind our mental tape a little bit, right? Think about what it was like in those early days when you first went home, right? And not just Bitwise employees, and I see some of those folks are tuning in, but folks from around the world in the country, when those first shelter in place orders went out, remind yourself of the way that it felt, right? How paralyzing in some cases it felt, how frightening it felt. It's kind of weird today to go outside or go to an event and we kind of know how this virus works, right? Like, for example, we have a couple of folks out even on our own on this program, right, for CenCal Dreamin, and they have COVID, and we all kind of understand what that means, and we wish them a speedy recovery, and we just sort of move on with what we all are needing to do. But back in March 2022, or it's 2020 rather, if you think about it, like put yourself back in your own shoes. What did it feel like when you heard the governor of your state say, there is a global pandemic, we're responding to this in an emergency fashion, we need you to go home and we need you to stay indoors, right? In our lifetimes, for the most part, we've never experienced something like that unless you were in an extreme situation, either in another country or during some sort of riot or something along those lines, right? So the vast majority of us have never been asked to go home and not come back out. And so there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of, what are we really facing here? Like, are we all gonna, are we about to experience I Am Legend in real life? And is that what we are walking into? So I say all of that to remind us what it felt like in those early days. And one of the questions, it was that first weekend, we had sent all of our people home at Bitwise. We said, hey, we don't know what this is going to be. So let's all go home for 2 weeks and then we'll figure it out from there. And we were just going to make the decision in front of us, right? And of course, in a very short period of time, it was like news article after news article after news article. Don't go to the grocery store. We're out of toilet paper. The elderly can't get out of their homes to go grocery shopping. Like all of these things that we didn't really think about in those first hours started to come true in ways that people couldn't access, their lives anymore. The things that we come to kind of expect in our day-to-day: grocery shopping, childcare, your kids' school, like all of those types of things. And so as Bitwise, my co-founder, my co-CEO, and I were texting that same weekend, and we said, basically, bro, this is scary. What is our responsibility here as a for-profit company in the heart of downtown Fresno? And what should we be doing about this moment? And we realized, because half of our business just stopped working overnight, right? We're such an in-person, place-based, community-oriented company that to do that from home when we haven't even, we don't even have Zoom licenses at that point, now what do we do? And we realized that we were in a unique position to, as one of the only cash rich companies that we could think of, right? You think about like a coffee shop or a restaurant where it's like those margins are already miniature. They're already struggling. You have a couple of days of folks not showing up, and that's that about that for that entity. Whereas Bitwise, it was like, well, we could probably figure out how to do a lot of what we do from home. And so that's what we decided to do. And then as soon as we felt like we had our own people sort of taken care of, it was, okay, what happens next? What are we doing in the community? And the initiative that was born out of that were twofold. One was, let's take all of our folks who can't do their jobs in person anymore, get them quality masks, get them PPE, and we will deliver groceries to the elderly and the immunocompromised who can't leave their houses right now to go get groceries. So we'll just go pick up their groceries and we'll deliver them to their houses, and we'll do the whole distance thing, and we'll, just participate in the community like that. And that started out literally as text messages. I think we put a post on Facebook hey, if you need groceries, we'll pick them up and we'll deliver them to your house. It exploded, absolutely exploded. And so it got to a place where we needed to redirect a bunch of our team to that effort. And then we needed to build a routing application to help figure out in what order we should buy groceries and to whom we should deliver them. Created some partnerships with the local food bank. So now we were getting boxes of food. It was just like a whole operation. And the entire logistics application called Take Care was built on Salesforce. That's Bruce. That's Bitwise Bruce, for those of you who can hear him right here. Sorry about that. He's vocal this morning, and he's really excited about talking about the things we've built on Salesforce. So that was the first thing that we did, was Take Care routing application built on Salesforce, and it cut our work into pieces. Like we went from probably 500 man hours in a day or person hours in a day to something more manageable, like 20 person hours in a day. So we could have like 3-4 people on shift. That's one effort. Another effort that we did, though, was our own apprenticeships, or apprentices rather, at that time were really interested in trying to connect their own communities to resources like cash, transportation, childcare, really life supportive services. And they came up with an idea of creating a matchmaking system. Can I enter my zip code into a field and then be connected to all of the services that are available to me during this emergency in my hometown? That became Onward CA, and then eventually became Onward US, which grew to, I think, 14 states adopted that system. It was thought of by apprentices, it was built by apprentices, it was deployed by apprentices, and it was all done on the Salesforce platform. So those are just two of the things that we did in response to a global pandemic when we were all still trying to figure out, what this was really going to look like and how to get toilet paper at home.
Awesome. Everyone is saying hi to Bruce in the chat. Yeah, I just actually got a demo of Onward and the app that you guys utilize to get food to people and continue to get food. And so that was really nice to see from a project manager standpoint, but also to see kind of, the community and what Salesforce can do, and if you just put an idea out there, Salesforce can help build that.
The first version of what we built was deployed in 11 days. And so I
Yeah.
think that speaks to the power of the platform.
Yeah. And shout out to all of those that are in here today that have built that or worked on that. Kudos to all of you. All right. Next, we have how have you led Bitwise Industries through the pandemic? You kind of mentioned this already, some of the efforts, but if you want to continue off of that question.
There's so much uncertainty. I think that's what the hardest part about this moment in time is. We had to decide early on what the bedrock was going to be, right? Because there's so many different ways to make decisions in an emergency, and when there's conflicting information out there, right, between the federal government and the CDC and what other private businesses are doing, what public businesses are doing, and so on. And our bedrock became, we would take care of each other. There's only so much you can control, right? And for us, we can't control if, folks are going to choose to live sort of without concern for COVID in their private lives. We can't control that. And I can't control whether the federal government is going to, enact a mask mandate, or the state government, or even our local municipality. But at Bitwise, we can control only that. And if our bedrock starting position is that we're going to take care of each other, then the decisions become really easy for us. And so while we might disagree, even as between myself and my executive team, right, my co-CEO and my president, the three of us make these decisions on behalf of the company, we don't all see eye to eye in how to handle this in our personal lives. And we have had many a fight on what that really looks like for each of us in our day to day. But what we do agree on is it's never too much to ask to take care of each other. It's never too much to ask to take care of each other. And so our decisions become pretty easy, even if they are sometimes inconvenient. We wear masks indoors. We promote gathering outdoors as much as possible. We are a vaccinated or exempt company. And those types of things where all of those decisions were made because I, Irma, am going to help keep you, Roxanne, safe. And that is part of my duty as being a Bitwise employee. And so that is the maximum we think we can do. It's working so far. We don't know of any cases of work transmission so far of the virus. Plenty of outside of work transmission. But we do think as a company we're doing our duty in keeping people informed. Every Thursday we keep people informed in our all hands meeting. And then we have policies that are a little bit more restrictive than you might see in the rest of the world, but still enable us to be in person and hang out with each other still.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it. I, again, maybe came from an environment that didn't maybe put that first. And so coming to this environment and knowing that our safety is really at the forefront, we appreciate it. All right, next question. How has Salesforce specifically helped people work in this time without burnout and keep things moving forward efficiently, although it seems that things are ever changing?
Well, first of all, I would object to the piece where you said without burnout, because that's another piece that we can't always control. Burnout has some to do with work and some to do with the demands on what you're being asked to do at work. But there's a lot more to burnout than just your, like, when you clock in and when you clock out, right? Kind of a thing. And so I think that there's a much larger conversation to have around burnout during this pandemic. I mean, we have, any number of folks tuning in at the moment. And if we were to poll these folks, I think we would find greater than 50% of folks have experienced some version of burnout during this period of time, during the last 2.5 years of this pandemic. A lot of it has to do with changing circumstances and living in uncertainty and holding tensions between you and your family and your coworkers and all of that. And some of it has to do with work and what you're being asked to do at work. So we try to be really mindful of what we are asking of people during this time. Because I think when we went home, it was like, oh, we have video, everything will be the same. And it turns out like literally nothing is the same. We should have been able to guess this. Any sociologist in the crowd, you already knew this was going to happen. The rest of us found out the hard way. All of that to say, though, that the idea of burnout, I don't think you can attribute to any one thing that you're being asked to do at work. That said, one of the things that we see giving people joy in this moment, well, actually two things, giving people joy and sort of circumventing that burnout feeling is one, learning new things. They've made use of this time in their lives to learn something brand new. And the second thing that we are seeing people experience joy in is doing stuff for other people. And in Salesforce, you get to do both. You get to learn new things and you get to build things for other people. And in some cases, the builds that you are creating, the modifications, the configurations, the implementations, the integrations, those things are all contributing to making someone's life better by solving a problem for them that technology is designed to solve. Which is why so many of us got into technology in the first place, right? Like, it's not just about the building and the aha moments and the sort of the gratification of seeing that you have done work for the first time. It's also being able to do something for someone else in an area that they may not specialize in. Being able to take a line of business problem where there's a repetitive action happening in an office and saying, actually, if you let me, software can fix that for you, and we can increase your throughput, and we can solve that problem. And that human being who is doing that can be repurposed to higher level work now that they don't need to worry about entering the same thing 35 times in an hour. And so the Salesforce platform gives us an opportunity to prototype those sorts of solutions for customers, and then deploy them into their businesses with, in many cases, very little friction, solving problems and helping people do what they do better, maybe even bringing them a little joy as well.
I agree. That's really why I got into tech. It's really, I love teaching people about technology and how it can help them solve their problems. I remember one of the first times I helped somebody, an older lady in an airport, tell her son, I can't figure out this FaceTime thing. And I just helped. I was like, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to help you figure out this technology in your hand. And she was very grateful. And it's things like that, the little wins of the day, utilizing technology.
Yeah,
Thank you for
for
that.
sure.
Our last question: why is it so critical to give overlooked populations a chance and important to retrain the many people who have lost jobs and have to go into a new industry? And how are you doing this at Bitwise?
Yeah, well, for us, it's not just about retraining. Um, it's about exposing folks to a life they didn't think they would have, right? So, just to giving for those of you who are not super familiar with Bitwise, we focus on three things. You can think of it in three parts. One is, of course, we do technology consulting, and of course, Salesforce is a massive part of that. And technology consulting is a simple business. Client asks us for a solution, we build a solution using technology, easy peasy, right? I mean, obviously, there's a lot more that goes into making it easy peasy, but the business as a concept is really simple. The second thing, though, that we focus on, and the most important thing that we do, is training up new entry level folks. And with that, what we do is, of course, we have some exposure courses where you get to expose people to what the technology industry is like. And then as quickly as possible, we try to get them into paid apprenticeships. Why is paid apprenticeship so important to us? It's because for the folks that we are serving, that's what creates space in their life. When you don't have to choose between an hourly rate job in field, factory, restaurant, or retail work, and you can instead invest your time in learning a new skill and accessing the opportunity of the technology industry. When you can spend your time doing that instead, your life will radically change. And we have data to prove that greater than 80% of the time, that person, and not just that person, by extension, their family and their community, also changes. And so for us, it's the simple fact is, once you expose folks to a different way of existing, if you can help them make space in their lives to access that opportunity, they will latch on. And then the third piece that we focus on at Bitwise is wrapping all of that in community. If you are coming from field, factory, restaurant, or retail work, and you're thinking about entering the technology industry, there's a lot of self-doubt, right? There's a whole talk track built into you that, like, this isn't for you, this is for other people, I wasn't good at math in the 5th grade, the technology industry is for non-diverse people, the technology only exists in primary markets. Like, there's all of this stuff that just like piles on that convinces you, and many times self-consciously, or subconsciously rather, that it's for someone else. And so if we wrap what we just described, the technology consulting and the learning and training, in community, then you get to see yourself reflected in that place. You know where to go if you're from a non-primary market and you just want to know what the technology industry is like. You can walk into that building and go check it out. You can see yourself reflected in the next job. You can take up opportunities to teach and mentor. I mean, so many things that come with the word community. And so we're deliberate about building venue for that community to take place. And when you see that, you see our buildings from the freeway, you see our buildings in your downtown, you see our buildings on Instagram. When you see that, then you think to yourself, well, maybe this is for me. And when it's plastered on the outside of our building that no one belongs here more than you, you might just for a second start to believe that's true. You might just for a second start to believe that the technology industry could be for people like us, right? People like Roxanne, people like Irma, people like the folks in the chat. And so then you get to experience that or be exposed to what this life might be like. So Why is it important? It's not just about training folks into a different career. It's about exposing them to an entirely different life that maybe they didn't even know existed. I can tell you that that was my story. I had no idea I could spend my time doing these things. I had no idea that I could get good at things that had nothing to do with using my body for an hourly rate, whether it was restaurant, retail, factory, or warehouse work. And so there are so many folks that are just like me and you out here in these underestimated cities. And when we began in Fresno, we thought, well, we're just going to do this in our hometown. This is what we're going to focus on in our hometown. And then come to find out, this model actually is portable to other cities if we just really focus on that community and not try to copy and paste Bitwise from Fresno into Bakersfield, but instead have a local expression of Bitwise in Bakersfield. Like when you start to think of it that way, then all the underestimated cities in the country become possibilities. And so very recently we announced that we'll be in 11 cities across the country. Some of those are, of course, Bakersfield, Merced, California, Oakland, California. But then we are also heading to Toledo, Ohio, Buffalo, New York, El Paso, Texas, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Greeley, Colorado. And those places, in so many ways, are so like Fresno and having all entire bodies of people who have no idea what life could be like if they can have the opportunity to access high growth, high wage jobs. And so Salesforce, as a part of that, being able to come in fresh off the street, right? Maybe you got a D in math when you were in 5th grade. Who cares? Salesforce has a place for you. We can make it work. There's so much to learn. The ecosystem is massive, and there's a place for you in it. We just have to make space in your life for you to concentrate and to practice that skill, which is what Bitwise Industries endeavors to do.
Yes, thank you, thank you, Irma. My family and I got to actually visit Bakersfield on our way up 99 North, California 99 North, and of course, their favorite part was the slide. But my favorite quote to them, that I caught myself saying was, "You get to work. You can work at a place like this one day," and really to show them that my wife is also an apprentice, a pre-apprentice, taking classes. She didn't think this world was for her, and to open up those doors, and then all of the people that she's kind of networked with and spreading those arms to show people and prove like you can start your Salesforce journey today and get into tech and work at a place like Bitwise. It is for everybody, and no one belongs here more than us. All right. That's all we have for you today, Irma. We really appreciate your time and all of your messages through all of your answers today. The chat is blowing up. You have some new Bruce fans as well. So again, we want to thank you for your time and wish you well for the rest of the day, and good luck.
Thanks so much, Roxanne. Hey, everyone, have a really great conference. Good to see you.